What's going on, guys? It's Chef. This video is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be more of like just a sit down and talk kind of thing. I figured I would make a video talking about this just because of how much is currently going on in like video gaming landscape, or pretty much the lack of anything going on until basically yesterday. To you guys, this basically just happened a couple hours ago for me. But yesterday in my video, I mentioned basically the state of Call of Duty, Warzone especially, because there's like this weird thing that goes on with Call of Duty's identity, and I'll kind of get into that a little bit later. Really, the follow-up to this question here, depending on whatever it is that you're answering, a lot of people would usually want to know why you would vote no. Modern Warzone asks, if you voted no, why? Do you think it's the mechanics of the game, or do you think that we're just burnout on Warzone in general after 3 years? So one thing that's very odd in the Call of Duty community especially, and I mean, I don't think it's just akin to Call of Duty, but we just see it a lot more often because Call of Duty can afford to just produce trash after trash after trash, and they'll just be fine. You can keep pumping the trash out if they want it. Our input doesn't necessarily matter, I guess. This is the kind of input that'll actually matter though, right? So there definitely is going to be changes coming. They're going to be scrambling. Here's the issue. I don't even know if this is something that even mechanically is wrong with the game, or really even Burnout either. The game just doesn't necessarily offer anything more. And what I mean by more, for example, here's another long-standing game that people will say arguably, or just not arguable at all, is the greatest FPS game of all time, Counter-Strike. They just had their Source 2 update, and they got massive hype and everything going on here. Just happened a few hours ago. All the streams and videos and all this stuff are flying. This is a long-standing game with a strong community on a game with devs that never, ever, ever wanted to actually touch what made Counter-Strike Counter-Strike. And at this point, because our player base is so diluted, I can't even tell you what is Call of Duty anymore. I feel like if you were to ask me, if you were to ask somebody else, if you were to ask random people, people would have so many different answers because there were so many design philosophies, design choices that were pounded into the player base repeatedly and then changed and then ripped away and then given back in a different form and then ripped away again and then returned a couple years later, but now it's not as strong as it was once before because it's not in the same climate. There's so much, and of course Counter-Strike over the years changed a whole lot. Now I don't want to sit here and pretend to know anything about Counter-Strike's community, because truth be told, I'm a Call of Duty player. Counter-Strike players are a whole different breed. This is an actual difficult game, okay? So Counter-Strike has an incredibly dedicated community that they never actually insulted by taking and giving and taking and giving and changing the core mechanics of the game. Now, given with this Source thing, you know, it could feel a little bit different in its own ways, but they're not changing the core mechanics of the game. No matter what, you're always going to feel familiar across, no matter what you're playing, what year it is. Counter-Strike is Counter-Strike. It is a consistent thing, like riding a bike, whereas Call of Duty, it feels like you're riding a bike that the chain is popping off of, your front fucking tire just exploded, and you don't even have a seat to rest your ass on. There's just a jagged pole that is shoved clean up your ass. That's what it feels like to play Call of Duty. And we buy a new one of those busted, broken-ass tricycles every single year for our ass. Meanwhile, Counter-Strike just has a facelift, and the game literally has just somehow breathed another 10 plus years into the game's life. The fact that people were playing Play-Doh, no offense, the fact that people were playing Play-Doh for this long is akin to how great it is. Even if I don't play it, I recognize this shit. Call of Duty, you can look at a certain Call of Duty and you have a million questions. CS, everybody just goes, that's CS. There's a reason why it's great, the whole esports thing. But anyway, getting sidetracked. Just to show a contrast in difference between the devs and stuff, I'm not saying that the CS devs are perfect. I don't know if it's an exaggeration, but I've been seeing people say things like they haven't communicated with us in 5 years. Valve is a complete mystery. No one knows what's going on. So you're kind of in the dark for a long time. But at least you're in the dark with a fun game. We're on the tricycle. Our devs are throwing rocks at us as we're trying to truck through sand. So, okay, maybe it's unfair. Let's take Fortnite. How about that? Fortnite just also had a great update yesterday where they announced their Creative 2.0. In the Creative 2.0, you can clearly see that there is so much more to Fortnite than years ago, the last time I ever made a video or even played the game. To me, it was just like this builder BR experience thing, and I wasn't a big BR guy. But this makes it so Fortnite is so much more than a BR. And the thing is, for the longest time, Call of Duty didn't necessarily have a competitor. And that's still the case to this day, which is why Call of Duty has been able to get away with this half-ass stuff for so long. Of course, yes, us fans just keep eating the shit, but it's because we love the franchise and we love what the games used to be. And if they would just not approach it in like reinventing the wheel way, because some people from outside of Call of Duty don't really understand the the angle that us Call of Duty fans are talking about whenever we're complaining about this. Like, imagine an update that you guys get every single year that changes the core philosophy and everything that you learn about the game that you were playing. Like, imagine that happened to CS. CS would be dead. Fortnite now has created kind of like a Roblox-esque type of thing where you're able to actually create your own game modes, maps, and all sorts of other, basically giving to the community. They're giving the community assets and literally teaching them code to go and create their own game modes, their own maps. The possibilities are endless just in this thought process. They can update and build off of all of this. And they're giving power to the creators to actually move the game forward. Call of Duty developers, as far as I know, I don't want to talk on other developers that could be the case too, but the Call of Duty developers that, yes, they have certain designs that they want to do, but Activision and other investors and other things, those decisions affect how they are creating these games. The systems that they are implementing, the drip feeding, all of that stuff is killing the game. If the players have all of the creation power, we don't even need them then. It's our game. And some people might feel some way about that. Some people are like, it's the devs' games, they make it however they want and they have a community or whatever, but once it gets to the point to where they are equipping the entire community to create exactly what they want, they are encouraging it. Call of Duty at every single turn has discouraged our player base from doing virtually anything outside of the scope of just pulling as much money as possible out of this. Look over at this clip from Courage. Call of Duty's domination mode recreated in Fortnite's new creative mode with Rust elements. Now, it's obviously an exaggeration. Sure, I guess you could say it looks like Rust in terms of like the style, but it's not Rust at all. It's not the same layout or anything, but it is literally a respawn mode within Fortnite in a small map without building and stuff. The only thing that I don't like about this is that it's third person. You make this first person and the first person is actually good and consistent and great. You literally have a Call of Duty competitor. I'm not joking. When you give power to the players will then pick the best base possible for themselves. Once I played Roblox's Frontlines and realized that the players themselves making those decisions for themselves, making the mechanics as close as possible to emulate things and make the changes that we want as a community, it's fun. You don't feel like you're at the mercy of anything. It's amazing. It truly is. So while we got CS over here having a massive facelift for their game, huge update to the biggest, most successful esports FPS game of all time, the most highly respected, smoke works dynamically, which changes a whole bunch of stuff, which is just great, adds a whole different element of strategy to the game, and it doesn't actually hurt the core value of the game. Everything stays intact. You have Fortnite giving creative power to one of, if not the largest community of creative minds. We have some of the biggest names and faces in the Call of Duty community tweeting about how bad it is, and I get it, year over year, Call of Duty community just cries and complains. Call of Duty isn't even close to producing anything close to this. They're just behind. And then we go and look over at a Call of Duty Twitter. Oh, good, guys. Got a playlist update. Oh, sorry. Wait, that playlist update, we're gonna have to update again because we didn't give you guys exactly what you wanted in shipment 24/7, knowing full well that that is exactly what people want. I don't know if you guys are like contracted or something, like obligated to just make stupid fucking decisions, but it's crazy. And this isn't even entirely the devs' fault, but we have so much more power with things like this. There are other developers out there that they just get it better. I don't know how else to explain it. It's like you're trying to communicate with somebody that's like 50 years older than you. Whenever you're speaking to any of these developers, it's like they have a gun to their head. I don't know. Maybe I said too much. Maybe I said too little, but Call of Duty is just losing. That's just that. It is what it is. I mean, dude, even Halo has more tools. It's insane. It's crazy. They give you theater mode one year and then they don't have it the next, and then it's whatever, man. You get it. Call of Duty's losing. They deserve it because apparently the only shots that Call of Duty is trying to do is just some stupid ass over the shoulder half court shot that they maybe could land once every 7 years. Nobody wants to be on a team with that player. They just don't. You make the whole team lose.